we are joining from different region, right? So myself Ankit, and I have got around 10 years of experience to do the QA automations. I am a trainer as well. I got my YouTube channel SLT Learning, right? You can see over the detailed video over SLT Learning, which is created by me, right, on different tools and technology, right? But today we're gonna discuss about the UI automation testing, right? So when we talk about UI, we normally come across, okay, UI means user interface, where we're gonna do something on a web page. We're gonna do we will gonna make it to work on an automation way, right? So the first thing is that the what is the purpose of doing a UI testing, right? The common things that we normally do the automation to save our time and energy, right? But when we talk about the UI, we normally talk about the graphic user interface, which we can see on any application, right? So normal UI will have like different text box, radio button, check box, drop down, calendar window, and all those things, right? So these are the normal key component that you can see on a UI. Then as a part of the automation, your job is to do the things that you are doing manually, to ask the tools and technology to perform the same validation for you and give you the result in term of the different reports, PDF report. You can generate the HTML report for the management and all those things. So now before moving to the detail, let me just tell you the six thumb rules which I normally believe on any automation tool that we should adopt, right? Because if we start working on Selenium, QTP, or any other automation tool, we always follow these things, right? We first go and set up, install, or configure the tools and system which we're going to use for automations. Then the second most important things we do is launch the application, right? If it is a web based application, we're going to launch the URL. If it is a Windows based application, we're going to launch the .exe file, something like that way. If it is a mobile based application, we have a APK file from the developer which we're going to use for the automation. Then once we launch the application, right, once we have an application on a screen, right? So for today's session, I'm going to use this simple application, right? This is the UI which I found from the internet. Very easy to understand and very easy to automate as well for me. But my purpose is that I'm going to show you how you can improve your automation step by step, right? So this is a simple UI. You can see it has email, it has the password, and it has login button, right? So now we're going to work on this one. So this is my application URL which I already launched, right, on a browser, right? So this is the second step. Then the third one is to locate, right? Now to do the automation on a UI, we have to locate the different elements on a page. So for that we have different locators like the XPath, CSS selector. We can do with the ID, we can do with the name as well, right? If you are working with the QTP or UFT tool, you will have a inbuilt object repository which gonna store your all the locators when you record the session. Same goes with the Selenium IDE. Once you record your session, it gonna do automatically store the all the locators. But if you want to do it manually, you can always go right click and go to inspect, right? And you can see how you're going to locate the element, right? You can locate the element. You can use inbuilt this one. You can click over any locator and you can locate the element as well, and you can use in your automation. So once you locate the element, right, you know which element you want to perform. So you're going to perform the different action on a located element. So if it is a button, right, you're going to click on that. If it is a checkbox, then you're going to select the checkbox. If it is a text box, you're going to type something on that, right? So this is how whatever you are doing manually, you are going to do in an automation way using the tools and technology. Over here, this is not about only Selenium. This is applicable any automation tool in this world, right? If you took any tool, you will have to apply this six thumb rule. Then once you perform the action, right, once you click somewhere, once you give the input to the system, right, then you have a fifth one which is assert and verification, right? You do the assert and verification. That is a core testing purpose, right? You match with the expected and actual result, and you just create a report based on that. So the sixth step will be prepare a report for the validation point, right? How many test cases get executed, how many pass, failed, and skip. So these are the six thumb rules. This is not for the Selenium. This is for all the automation tool you can apply. And if you like the observe it closely, right, you all are doing these things when you do the automation. Okay. Now, how the automation work, right, guys? It may be a bit non-technical concept, but it's really good to understand how the automation work. So the first thing is, in not the automation in any business, we should clear about the requirement, right? And now when we want to do the automation, then always remember, you always choose the stable requirement, stable test case which are working fine manually, right? Because something which is not working properly and which is continuously breaking down, right, then there is no meaning to write the automation script, because it will be increase your rework to adjust the script, and the more effort you just put on the rework. So if you have regression state suite, right, which is working fine and you have to do it again and again, then go and apply the automation, right? Then once you understand the requirement, then you start writing the automation test script, right, where you use the different language, like you can use Java, C sharp, Python. Based on your expertise, you can implement different libraries like TestNG, Maven, JUnit, and all those things. Then you will also configure the object repository. You can have a verification method, common method, utilities method, and all those things you can put under the test script. Then after, once your test script is ready, you're going to execute the test script once you receive a build, or once you receive the repository from the developer, right? And once you execute those things, you're going to record the result in a different format, like in the HTML format or a PDF format or XML format, and you just set up something which gonna automatically send a report to the management over the night build or anything, right? So this is how the automation we normally used to work for any UI application. Now I'm going to talk about this Selenium, right? So what is Selenium, guys? So you must be aware about the Selenium is one of the open source automation framework which is mainly used for the web-based application, right? And if you talk about the family of the Selenium, you can see the three things. I have intentionally not include the remote control, which is Selenium RC, because it is deprecated from the community and most of the company are not using those things, and that's the reason. So Selenium IDE, why Selenium community always like focus on the Selenium IDE? They have also improved the GUI and all those things to use the Selenium IDE, because it is the base tool which you should adopt when you do the automation, right? For a learning purpose, for resolving any challenges, if you're confused how to do the walkthrough on any application, you can use the record and playback tool given by the Selenium, which is Selenium IDE. Then we have a Selenium WebDriver, which is nothing but the collection of API which you use to create a dynamic script. There are certain limitations in a Selenium IDE which you can overcome with the Selenium WebDriver. So you can compare between the Selenium IDE and Selenium WebDriver. And the third thing is that Selenium Grid, right? So this is not like you can compare with the WebDriver and IDE. This is totally different. When you want to do the parallel testing with the like the client server architecture, you go and adopt the Selenium Grid in your script. And the best practice says, once your Selenium WebDriver script is up and running and it is giving you the result what you require, then you go and adopt the Selenium Grid, and you can run the same test case on a different operating system, on a different browser version at the same time. Okay, guys. Then another concept come into the picture when we talk about the Selenium, it's TestNG. So most of you might be heard about the TestNG, which is one of the most popular unit testing framework, right? So when we just says unit testing framework, that means it is going to be used by the developer as well when they do the unit testing, right? And why the TestNG, the integration between the TestNG and Selenium is more important, because there are certain limitation in the Selenium, right? You cannot generate the report via Selenium directly. You have to have some third party plugin, and that's the reason we use the TestNG. Then along with the reporting, TestNG add many more advantage on a Selenium automation, like you can prioritize your test case. If you have multiple test case in one class, right, you can go and prioritize your test case. You can group the test case like a smoke test case, regression test case, and all those things. You can add the listener, so each and every action is gonna log for you, and you can prepare the detailed report, so you can use for a troubleshooting purpose as well. You can use to understand how the framework is working and all those things. And the most important thing is annotations, right? So guys, a Selenium work sorry TestNG work on the annotations. So what is annotations? Annotations is nothing but it just give you the way to write your code, right? I will show you it practically how it's going to be helpful. But the main core part of the TestNG is their annotations. Then we can also enable the parallel mode using the TestNG. Then we can also use the depends on method. Like suppose if you have multiple methods in your automation script, right, where the output of the one particular method it depend on the another method, then you can use that a combination of depends on method in a TestNG using the TestNG. Then you can parameterize your test case easily using the TestNG. So these are the few advantage which make the TestNG the best combination for the Selenium using the unit testing. Okay. Now, if you are on a .NET based application, then you can use the N unit. Then there is also a G unit. We can also use as a unit testing framework. But I am just going TestNG for this demo purpose. Then the next things we have POM, right? Now, guys, you might be aware about the POM, which is a page object model, right? Why I took this topic in this presentation, because this is the pattern. This is one of the design pattern which you can use on all the automation framework, right? You can use in the data driven framework, you can use in the keyword driven framework, the hybrid framework, in the BDD framework. You can use this concept because it is very useful to utilize your code, right, in a different way, and to troubleshoot your code if something happening wrong in your code, right? So let's suppose the POM normally you supports the object repository. That is the main concept of POM, page object model. So you're going to divide your automation script on a pages wise, right? So if your application will have like the 20 page, right? So you're going to create a 20 different class for all those page, and you're going to put all the methods and all the object repository on that class only. So suppose in future, after 1 year or 2 year of your automation, if you want to make any change, you no need to go all the script and just try to find out. You know where you have placed those information, and you can easily go and just change those information, right? We will also see these things in practically how this gonna make the advantages on the automation. Then the next topics is the Maven, right? The Maven is something you can say is the build automation tool, right? Which normally help you to speed up your build process, right? How you gonna create your build for any application. This is mostly used by the developer when they work on the Java based application or the .NET based application. But why it is useful for the automation community? Because when you work on the automation, right, there are many dependencies, many jar files which you have to download from the Google and unzip it and import in your project, right? But using the Maven structure, it is very easy. You can just go and import the dependency into the pom.xml, and it's gonna automatically download the latest file, whatever the version you have put. It's gonna download and place under your project. Then the Maven will provide you the inbuilt structure to do your automation code, right? So you can bifurcate your code in a such a way it's easy to understand and easy to reuse. Now Maven will have three kind of repository, like central repository, local repository, and the remote repository. So those are the repository we normally use to do the automation in our script. So central repository is something available over the internet. You guys must be aware about those things, right? If I go over here and it just says Maven repository, right? So this is the central repository you can see, and from over here you can take a code on of the, let's suppose I want to say Selenium, right? If I hit the Selenium, I can see Selenium Java, and I can see the latest stable code over here 3.14159, and I'm going to click on that, and I can take this Maven dependency to my uh, pom.xml, right? So I can go and put in my pom.xml, and it's going to be work for me. Okay, so this is the main use for the Maven for the automation engineer. And the another things that I found it is useful, the pom.xml, which is the heart of the Maven, right? It is very easy to integrate with the Jenkins. So if you are planning to implement the CI/CD pipeline for your project, the Maven is the best option to do the development. And at the end of the day, you can just configure the pom.xml and just pass the command maven install, and it gonna automatically take your code. Whenever you make any changes in your code, it gonna automatically run the build, and it gonna automatically run your automation test cases as well. So that is the use of the Maven. Then different types of the automation framework, right? So keyword driven, data driven, the hybrid, and BDD. So what is keyword driven framework, guys? So let me just take you the simple requirement, right, about the login page. So if you have a login page requirement, right, what are the manual steps you normally follow, right? So you just says I launch the browser, right? So first steps you normally says launch the browser, then enter the username and password, right? Something like that way, and click on login button, right? So this is the parameters, this is the steps you normally follow when you do the manual testing for your application, right? But now suppose what are the data you are going to use over here, right? So one things I miss over here, launch launch the application URL, right? So now over here we can see different data as well, like the browser. So which browser we're going to use? So I says I'm going to use Chrome. Then which URL we're going to use? Then we need to pass the URL as well. So I'm going to pass this google.com. Then what is the username and password? So I just says Ankit dot Prajapati, something like that way. This is my username and my password will be Ankit at the rate 321, something like that way. So these are the data, guys. You understand? These are the data we're going to use in our automation. So when you do the automation based on your data, right, that is called data driven framework you are creating, right? So now suppose I want to test the same functionality with the positive data, with the negative data, and all those things. So how I can do that things? You have to put your all the test data in Excel file, or you can also use the property file, and you can read those data which is gonna highlight it over here, right, to achieve your data driven testing. So same functionality you are testing with a different combination of data, right? So that is called the data driven testing. Another thing is keyword driven testing. Now in the same steps, right, where you can find the keyword. So these are the keywords: launch, right, launch browser, launch, or I will just say simple says open browser, right, and enter, right, enter and click. So these are the my keyword. So I'm going to make it keyword, right? So first keyword is that open browser, right, then launch app, right, then enter text, right, that can be applicable for password and for the username as well. Then click, like click. So it can be also click can be also applicable for button, any link, right? Enter text box can be available for text box. Launch will be the URL, right? And this gonna be any browser, Chrome browser, or you can use a Firefox browser or Safari browser, right? So this is the way you bifurcate your keyword from your test cases, right? This is a simple example, and this is once you bifurcate your these keywords, right, you gonna create the generic method for this keyword, so you can use throughout your application, throughout your framework. And that's the reason it says keyword driven framework. So most of the framework which normally use the keyword driven framework, they will have like the keyword .java class which contain all such method, right, which is in the generic way. So now suppose if you want to use the click, if you want to make a click on any element, right, you just call this method and pass the element ID. That's it, right? So this is called keyword driven testing. Now what is a hybrid framework? Hybrid framework is the combination of data driven and the keyword driven approach, right? So what you can see on a screen, which is normally if you combine the both the things, you read the data, different set of data from Excel or from any database as well directly, right? You can connect with the Oracle database, MySQL database, and read the data from the table directly, and you do your executions, and at the same time you also adopting the keyword libraries to in your framework. That is called the hybrid framework, where you are using the multiple combination of the framework like data driven and keyword driven. Then the third approach is come in the framework which I can normally put over here is the BDD, but we're going to talk about the BDD in detail later on. Then the next topics that I want to cover, the BDD Cucumber, right? So what is the BDD, what is Cucumber, and what is Jenkins language? So the BDD is the behavior driven development, right? Now we have a TDD. Previously we used to do the all the development based on the TDD. If our test case is going to be passed or not, right? We first check the feasibility of the test case. But nowadays this is also getting more popular, the BDD framework, where we're going to develop our software. We do the testing of our software based on the how the user is going to behave on the system, right? So from the user story point of view, we adopt this like the approach to do the development and to the testing. Now what is Cucumber? The Cucumber is a tool which is created in Ruby language and which supports the BDD framework, right? The same way we have a JBehave which is codely written in Java. Then we have SpecFlow which is also the BDD tool, but we normally use in the C# based application, right? The next things about the BDD is a Jerkin language. So what is a Jerkin language? Jerkin language is nothing. It's a simple English plain language which normally help you to do your automation and to write your automation feature files in a such a way so it is easy to understand for every stakeholder like the business analyst, project manager, and everybody. They can easily understand. And when you work as an automation tester, it give you the big relief, because you need to focus on each and every steps rather than focusing on overall application. You just focus on a step wise and you go and automate those things, right? So these are the different keywords we normally have for the Jenkins language we use in the automation, and we're gonna see that things in a practically as well. So now guys, let's jump to the practical, and first we will see over here. So this is the application, right? This is a simple login page we're gonna automate, right? So we're gonna enter the username, password, and we click on this button. Then this is, if this get login, right? So what is the username and password I have over here? I already stored this information. Let me use it. I'm gonna show you it manually how we gonna do this testing, then we will show in the automation way. So I'm entering username and password and I will click on the login button, right? And it gonna redirect me to the login screen. Now again I will sign out, log out, right? And the same things, this is called positive testing we did. Now I want to do the negative testing. I will just enter any wrong username and password, right? And try to see what is doing, right? If click on login, it gonna show me message this one. So this is my validation criteria, right? If in the negative test case, if this is showing, that means the negative test case is also pass, right? We are not failing the negative test case, we are passing the negative test case, but we want to see this message. And in the positive side, if it is taking us to the next level on the next dashboard screen, then it is got pass, right? So now to do this automation, there are different approach. So I am going to show you the same thing in a for way, right? The same thing you can do in a for way, and I will also show you what are the different to do those things. So first of all, I have just already created to save the time for the for us, like the Selenium simple demo, right? So it's gonna have the Selenium jar files as a reference library, then the Java supported jar files and all those things. And I have one src folder, under that I have just created login page test, right? And under the login page test I have created two test cases, the positive test case, right? If I open this one, then this is the positive test case which we're going to use using the Selenium WebDriver, right? So these are the normal simple syntax which is easily available on Google, right? So I'm not going to focus and going to write it from scratch because it's going to be become a bit time consuming for us. So this is normally we define the WebDriver which is going to drive this particular car, right? So WebDriver work in a such a way, if you want to instruct your browser, right, what to do, then you should require a driver. And for each and every browser you will have a different WebDriver, right? So Chrome, for a Chrome browser we have Chrome driver.exe, for Firefox we have Gecko driver.exe. So for each and every browser we set up the property which tell which browser we're going to use and how we're going to run our test case. Then as I told you, right, initially this is called setup and configuration, right? Then we are launching the application, right? So which application we need to test, then we're gonna locate our element, guys. You see, this is following the thumb rule. Then we're gonna locate our element, and then we're gonna perform the action. You see, performing the action. So we locate the text box username using the locators by dot name. Then we're gonna send key, right? We're gonna perform the action, we're gonna send the value to that particular text box. Then for the button we're gonna make a click, right? This is a button, we're gonna make a click on button, right? And then we're going to do the verification. You see, the verification and validation, right? And we're going to print this information on on our console, and then we're going to do the driver.close, means close the driver automatically. So this is the simple Selenium code which we have written in a one class, one man method, right? So let me right click and run it, and I will show you how it is going to be work. So I'm going to run it as a Java application, right? So now it is going to be launched. You see it says Chrome driver started, and let me take it to the bottom. Yep. And you see over here it's enter the username and password automatically and launch the browser, then close the browser, right? And it says positive test case pass, right? But you see there is nothing report kind of stuffs over here. So we cannot send this information to the management, right? This test case is pass, because it may be possible we can easily write down the simple statement line by ourselves, right? Even though we are doing the assertion using the if else condition, but it maybe it's not look good to submit this report to the management. The same thing, we have created the negative test case which is minor changes on the validation part only, right? It should show this message. If this message is showing, that means negative test case is also passed. So if I'm going to run this one, right, I'm going to run this one, then it's going to validate those information for us, right? So just hold on and see, it's gonna put wrong username and wrong password, and you see it's gonna validate this message, and then it's gonna close the browser, right? And it says negative test case is passed, because this is what we have expected, and we got this information from our this method get text from that particular element, whatever the text it shows, and we're going to compare those information and we're going to pass. Now this is a simple Selenium, guys. Now I'm going to do the same thing using the TestNG, right? So I'm going to close this project, I'm going to open this project. Now to work with the TestNG, you have to add the TestNG library, right? So what you can do, you can right click on the project. So this is the next version of the simple Selenium demo. I go over here, I go to Java build path, right? I click on the class path and I just click add library, and I added TestNG library for my project. So it supports this TestNG annotation. Now if I open this one, login test case, same go with the positive and negative. But now if I open the positive, right, you see there are the different annotations: at the rate before, at the rate test, then after test. So what it gonna do after the test, right? So before the test it gonna set up everything, right? And after the test it gonna close the application. Now this is our actual test. Verify the positive test case. I think it's my typo, it should be says positive test case over here, right? Positive test case. Now the same thing, you see the same thing we are doing over here, but now we are using the test ng assertion. You see, assert the value expected and equal. If you see over here, what is the improvisation? Initially without test ng we are using the normal Java code if else condition, right? But now using the test ng we are using the assertion, right, to assert our values and information. So if I run this code, right, and you will see the difference in the result as well. Now I'm going to right click run, and it says TestNG. You see, if I click on this one, it's going to run the positive test case for us, right? It's going to open this one, enter username and password, and log in and close, right? Right? And you see now, this is the magic, guys. This is the use of the TestNG. Now you can see the complete report over here, right? What is the user, what is the test case you have run, right? And the test case got passed over here, and you can see total one method run, one method part, nothing skipped, nothing failed, right? And also in a TestNG report folder, right, it create the index.html. If you open this one, right, if you open this one, you can also see the reporting structure over here as well. So if I double click on this one, you can see the simple report as well, right? What test case you have run, what is the syntax, what is the structure of the form XML, what is the chronicle view, like how it executed, first setup method, then verification, then tear down method, one method run, one method part. This is a very basic level. If you go in a big framework, you will find around 200 method and 200 method pass and all those things over here, right? So this is the report, the HTML report you can send to the management once you have everything configured, right? Now the same thing, now this is the second version, right, where you use the TestNG annotations to do your testing. Now the next one is the POM, like the page object model. How you gonna adopt the page object model? Now what is happening, if I want to test, right, this login page, guys, then on a login page, I have different features, right? I have an email, password, right? Then I have login functionality, so user can do the login. User can validate the page title as well, if the login page title is valid or not, right? So there are different locators, different elements we have, and different action that we can perform on a login page, right? So let me open that the same thing over here, and if you click on this one, you can see I have divided this particular framework in three way. First says phptravel.com.pages, right, which is the Java class which described about the page only, right? So let me just show you how it's going to describe. So you see I have created my object repository, right, which normally show the locators of a specific object, and this by means page factory method we have used to do the page object model pattern, right? So I'm going to create one constructor for this particular class, and I'm going to initialize the page factory class so we can use the by dot and all those things throughout the application. Now on my login page, right, we're going to use two things. We're going to validate our title, and we're going to do the login functionality, right? And you see over here we have not written anything like set up the driver.exe and the Chrome driver and all those things. We only see the information which is related with the login page, right? If you open the dashboard page, then you can also put only the information which is related with the dashboard page. So where the information will handle, right, like launch the browser and all those things. So you see I have used the inheritance extend from a base class, right? So if I use extend from a base class, so where is my base class? So my base class is under my utility package. If I open this one, right, it will show my base class, and it show this all the property and this init method, right? So what this init method can do, this will do the same thing. It will set up the property information, it will define the Chrome driver, it will do the initial checks, the maximize window, it put the implicit and page load time, and it launch the browser. So this is common, right? Now if you want to use this init method in all your test case, you can simply extend this one, and you can just simply use anywhere. You can initialize your page factory model, right? Now this is simple, the class where actually we are not doing the validation over here. We have just put our action that we cannot do on a login page, right? Now I want to create a test case for this login page, right? So for that I have created the third package, which is verify login page test cases. So over here I am again going to extend the base class because I want to use the init method from base class. So I just says before method setup, right? And I'm going to create the object for login page, which is login page object, dashboard page object, to utilize the different method, right? So you see I told you, right, in the TestNG we can set up the priority. So I'm going to set up the priority 1 for this one, verify the login page title. So this is expected, and whatever is coming we're going to store and we're going to assert that, right? So verify the login page title, it should be login. Then the second one is positive test case, right? If after login, if this title is coming, that means the test case is passed. And in the negative test case, which is priority 3, right, we're going to do these things. We're going to validate this message, invalid email ID and password, right? If that is that information is matching, then we're going to do we're going to say the negative test case is passed, right? So I'm going to change this information no user, okay? So it's going to give us failure message over here, and at the end of the day we do the after method, right? So you see the same thing we have divided in such a way where the only repository, object repository, and the inbuilt method we can not gonna define on a page class. Then we have one utility class which gonna help us to set up everything. Then we have a test cases, which is again a Java class but totally different. The differentiate between the Java page method and a test method. Now what is the use of this one, right? Let's suppose your login, right? Your specific login functionality, right? The information got changed. The designer has made some changes on the locator of the username, right? So if you write in such a way, in this way, right, if you write in a this way, then you have to search this locator for a login page where it is affected, and you want to make the changes over here, right, whatever the locator. But in if you adopt this functionality, you just go to the login page on which page they have make changes, and just change over here, and it gonna affect everywhere this particular text box is used, right? So that is the advantage of page object model. It is easy to maintain and easy to enhance, right, in future. And if you stuck somewhere, if you want to troubleshoot, then it also be little bit easy compared to the normal or TestNG framework. So now if I go on over here, and if I run this particular code, right, and you see the difference. So I'm going to run this code, right? So see, now it's going to run the same thing 3 times, right? So first it launch the browser, right? It will check the title of the page, login page. It will close the browser, right? The second one, again it automatically open. Now the positive test case is going to write, so it's going to launch the information, right? Then enter the username and password, click on login, validate the login dashboard title, and close it. Then the third one, which is negative test case, right? So login page functionality, everything is covered in a one class, right? So negative, enter wrong username and password, and validate invalid email and password over here, right? So this is what you're gonna do. So you see This is how it generates the report. If you now open that report over here, right, it's gonna make more sense. You can see the multiple method over here. Index, yeah, right, index, you see now it says three method pass. If you go to chronological view, you can see it calls setup, then verify title, then tear down, then again setup, because before a test, after a test, method always got called, right? So it will help us to handle few of the exception, right? Sometimes in automation we might make a mistake. We before performing any action, we close the session, we close the browser, then we will found, okay, no active session or no such element found or no driver property found, some kind of exception. And that's the reason it's best practice: open it, perform your validation, close it, open it, perform your validation, and close it, right? So this is again the TestNG report, but this is going to be coming from the page object model pattern, right, which is easy to troubleshoot and easy to use as well. Now the third things, right, the fourth one, the version 4 of the same test case is the BDD framework, guys. So I have created the Maven property, Maven project over here, and under the pom.xml, right, which is a Maven property, Maven heart of the Maven, I have defined all the dependencies, right, from the Maven repository, which I show you over here. From over here I have taken all the required dependency, right, and I have put over here so we can use in our project, right? So let me close this one, and we're gonna do this thing from a scratch. It is more dynamic, but we can do in a 5 minutes. So let me show you how you can do it quickly, right? So what is a BDD framework first? So BDD framework will have three things, guys. So BDD framework, right, will have a three things. The first one is the feature files, right? The first one is a feature files. So feature files, right? So over here you're going to write your test scenario, right? You're going to write your test scenario, right? And you're going to use Jerkin language to write those things. Means given, when, then syntax, right? And what is the extension of this file? Dot feature, right? This is the extension of this file, right? So this is the first part of a Cucumber framework, of the BDD framework, right, which is the feature file. You're going to write the steps over here, steps, your steps 1, 2, 3, right? You're going to write your three steps over here, like the steps which you're going to do the automation, you're going to use for the automation. Then the second part of the BDD will be the step definition file, right? So what is a step definition file? It gonna define, this is the actual Java class, guys. This is a Java class where you're gonna use step definition, right? Where this is a Java class, right, where you're gonna do actual Selenium script. You're gonna write actual Selenium script, right? So over here you're gonna write the actual code of each and every steps you have mentioned in the feature files, and the extension of this class is .java. This is a Java class, right? And you write the all the snippet, or I will just say method of steps, methods of steps in a feature files, right? Now they both work separately, right? They both are separate. Now to combine those two things and give the execution point to the BDD framework, we have third Java class, the third component, which is a second Java class, which is my runner or test runner class, right? This is a runner class, right? This is again a Java class. This is again a Java class. It contains JUnit annotation. You can also use JUnit and TestNG, anything, and Cucumber options, right? So what you normally do, if you want to execute your Cucumber framework, you're gonna run this one, right? And you're gonna give the path of this feature files over here. You're gonna give the path of this step definition file over here. So these are the three component, 1, 2, and 3 component which make the Cucumber BDD framework, right? If you do in a C sharp, in a Ruby and any other language, you have to follow the same pattern. You should have a feature files to write your feature. You should have a step definition file to write your step definition. Okay. Now I have one core structure. You see, nothing is over here in a test folder. This is a default structure when you create the Maven project, right, guys? You can see this is a default structure over there, right? Now I'm going to right click and I just says new, and I'm going to create the package, and I will just says feature, right? Feature package. Then I'm going to create another package, right click, next, and it just says uh, step definition, right? Step definition. Then I'm gonna sorry. Just hold on. I need to create a package, not a class. So package, it is says step definition, right? And then the third package, which is my runner class, right? For my runner class. So my runner or test runner package, right? So I have three package, right? So in the first package, the feature files, I want to create a the file feature file. So I will go to other, right? And I will select the file. And as I told you, right, what should be the extension of this file? So I will just say login dot feature, right? This is my login dot feature, right? And if I click on this one, it turned to the green, right? Why? Because I have installed the Jenkins plugin over here, right? So how you can install? You can go to help Eclipse marketplace, and over here it might be take some time, but you can download the Jenkins plugin. Otherwise, if you write directly dot feature, it will give you the error. It will not support the Jenkins syntax and all those things. So you can go to Eclipse marketplace, just search over here the Jenkins or a natural language or plain language, and you will see it will give you the option to install it in your Eclipse. And once you install in your Eclipse, then and then you can see it is turned to the green and it will not give you any error, right? So this is the first approach we gonna normally do, right? We normally gonna do. So now, yeah, everything is launched over here. So just hold on. Now let me just say over here it says natural. If I just type natural, right, it gonna give me, okay, you see, sorry, just hold on, my net is bit slow, but it give you the option to install the Jenkins plugins for this Eclipse, the natural plugin, right? It is already installed in my one. If you click on more information, you see BDD, Cucumber, Jenkins syntax and all those things. So you can install this one to support your Jenkins language. Now why the BDD framework is like very popular nowadays? Because this will help the collaboration between the team. So now your business analyst who normally write the user story, they can also contribute on automation. Your manual tester who are not like that much good to do the automation scripting, they can also contribute in your automation framework. So over here the feature file will work in this syntax. We need to first define which features we need to test. So I will just say login feature, right? I want to test the login feature, right? Then what is a background? So in a background, that means what you need to set up initially. Like in a TestNG we have before test before method, right? So similar in a Cucumber we have background, how you gonna do these things. So it's a background. I will just say setup and configure the system property property. And what steps I want to do? So I just says given, what should I given? Set up the Chrome driver, right? Set up the Chrome driver property. This is what I will just say, this should be the given, right? Now, so this is a background, this is a feature. Now I want to test the scenario, two scenario, positive and negative scenario. So I will just say scenario, right? This is my first scenario. Verify the positive test for the login functionality, right? So now this is my scenario, and what steps I normally follow, I need to mention each and every steps over here. So I will just say given launch the app URL, right? And I'm going to pass the URL over here, right? So what is my app URL, guys? I'm going to take it from over here. This is my app URL, right? So I'm going to paste it over here. So once I'm on a app URL, then user will validate login page, right? So once you enter the URL, you have to, before performing a action like passing a username and password, you need to first validate if you are on a right page or not, right? So yeah, you are on a login page, then and then you can do the second steps, which is enter uh, user enter the username, right? I'm going to pass the username over here as well, and password. And what is the password? right? So I'm going to take the positive test case. So I'm going to pass this positive one, the correct one, the valid username and password, right? Valid username and valid password. Then what should be my next steps? Okay, then click on user, click on login button. So you guys see we are doing automation, but this is the manual steps which can be, which like manual tester can write, and the BA person who normally write the user story, they can also easily write these steps, right? It's very easy to understand as well for anybody who is a non-technical as well. So then we click on a login button and user verify the dashboard page title, right? So if it is a valid username and password we enter, so the next page will be the dashboard page. We're going to validate that things if we are on a right page or not. And at the end, then user close the browser, right? So this is our positive test case, guys, right? It's look a little bit easy to understand how you're going to write the positive test case. But now suppose you want to do the negative test case, then you no need to put the effort again. You can just copy, you can just copy this one, right? Paste it over here. Just says second scenario will be negative scenario, right? Negative scenario, you do the same thing, you just pass the wrong username over here, right? So once you click on the login button, it's not gonna do these things, right? It's gonna verify the invalid credential message on a screen, right? And then close the browser. Now if you see these things, we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 plus 6 is equal to 12, 12, and this is 1 with 13. So we have total 13 steps to automate, right? Now so how many method I need to create? I need to create 30 method like in a normal scenario, right? But what is the use of Cucumber? You gonna do these things really quickly. So let me just show you. So before utilizing these things, if you mouse over on this yellow, it says no definition, no step definition found for these steps, right? Which we already seen over here. We need to enter the step definition. So we can just create a step definition class and we can write down one by one as well. So if I go to Java class now and just says mm, step definition class, right? And I'm going to say finish. So if I go and write down all the 13 method over here, that might be time consuming, right? So I want to save my time, so I want to write all the method for these scenarios. So I will create my test runner class first. I will keep my step definition blank. I will create my test runner class, right? And I just says my runner, right? And I just says create. And over here I no need to do anything. I need to just pass one G unit annotations, right? One G unit annotation I need to pass, and then I need to pass the different Cucumber options, and that's it. Then it gonna help me to generate the snippet. So I just says run with, right? Run with, and I will just says Cucumber dot, the syntax is class, right? Cucumber class, right? And the another says this is a G unit annotation, and another says Cucumber options, right? Cucumber options, right? And I'm gonna just click on over here, right? And just hold on, why it is giving me the error? If I mouse over, it says import, yeah, JUnit, right? And in the Cucumber options, there are a couple of options we're gonna pass. So first we need to pass where we have a feature files, right? So features is equal to, right? Then the second option we're gonna pass where we have our step definition, means where we have a glue means it gonna pass the path for the step definition package, right? So we're gonna pass over here glue, that means where our step definition we can glue it to the framework. Then we have dry run, right? Then we have another option, Cucumber option, dry run, right? And which we normally keep it true initially to check if all the steps are matching with the definition or not. Then we have a monochrome, which is to just give you the proper console output. We're gonna use these things as of now, right? So these are the things we're gonna use, right? Okay, perfect. Now just hold on. Okay, sorry, spelling it wrong. Okay, so these are the four features. Now what I will do, I will right click on these feature files, right? And I'm gonna click copy this one path, and I'm going to paste it over here, complete path, right? And on the step definition, I'm going to just give the name of this feature files, right? So it says my step is over here in the step definition package, right? And my dry run is equal to true, means dry run true means it gonna check, it gonna validate if number of steps are if number of steps in the feature files are matching with the number of method we have in the step definition. But as of now we do not have anything, right? So it's gonna give us failure. So what we can do over here, we can just right click and run it as a JUnit. If you click on run it JUnit, right? So it gonna check the comparison, right? It says 14 steps you need to required and all are not there, right? It says it skipped positive test case and negative test case, it skipped everything, right? Why? Because we have just run the dry run. If I see the console output, right, it give me the snippet code. You can implement the snippet, right? So now it is very easy for me, rather than focusing writing it manually, I will copy this one and I'm gonna go on my step definition and I'm gonna paste it over here, right? And if now we're gonna write our code, our automation code over here. So I'm gonna remove this exception as of now, right? And now you see every steps will have their method, right? But if you just compare, we have 14 steps but we have only like 8 to 9 method. Why? Because the duplicate method which we see on a on a feature files, like the duplicate steps, these are the duplicate steps, right? This is over here as well. So this is not going to duplicate in a step definition, it's going to create the only one, right? So that is the beauty of the Cucumber framework. So it will be easy for you to write your code. Now you have a snippet as well, right? So what you need to do, you need to just write your automation code, right? And you can also use the same code. So I'm gonna, rather than like investing that much time, I'm gonna just go over here, I'm gonna copy this information from my, which the information I have already written, right? I'm gonna give over here. So it says set up a Chrome property, right? So how you gonna set up a Chrome property? So I think, yep, this is the information we're gonna say set up a Chrome property, right? So I'm gonna say set up a Chrome property. These are the things we can use to set up a Chrome property. Then launch the URL, right? It's gonna have one variable, one parameters over here. So it says string this parameter, so this is referring to this one. So this value it will take from this feature files, so this value it will take automatically, right? So I need to just pass those values. So what I will do, I will just say driver dot get, right? And I will just pass this variable, right? I'm going to just pass this variable. Now I will just put the implicit weight for a time being in over here, so it will allow to load all the element. Then it says user will validate the login page, right? If you want to user, you need to validate the login page title, right? So how we can do, okay, let's we do these things, right? We're gonna copy this one, and login page title should be login first, right? It says login page title should be login, and I'm going to use the assert, simple assert equal, right? Assert equal and expected and actual, right? So this is, I'm simply writing over here. You see guys, I'm quickly writing my code. Now enter username and password. So I'm going to take from over here, enter username and password. So this is the code, I'm going to take it over here and just paste it over here. Same code in the different way, version 4. Now it says by dot name, right? What I need to, okay, now over here the username I have passed it manually, but I can pass it via parameters, string parameter, two parameter. These are username and this is password, right? So we can see over here, this is username and this is password, right? So I'm gonna do it over here. So what I will do, I will just say argument 1 will be my username. So instead of this string, just pass the parameter, right? And argument 2 for positive and negative as well. So it's gonna take automatically. Then click on login button. I'm gonna also copy this code for a login button. This is my element, right? This is my element for a login button, and I'm gonna remove this login button element from over here because I only need username and password. Then what I can do on a login button, btn login, right, dot click. right? So it says click on login button. So these steps, click on login button, which is coming from over here, user click on login button, and now we have a definition what to do. Then verify dashboard page title, right? So I'm going to use this one, dashboard page title. Copy this syntax, and my dashboard page will be my account, right? My account, right? Then close the browser, guys. So how we can do close the browser? Driver dot close, right? Then validate the invalid username and password one. So this is come from the negative test case, right? So if I go to the TestNG one, sorry, let take it from over here, negative, right? So this is what we can do, right? And we're gonna assert this one. So negative test case, we're gonna assert this one, assert, sorry, set equal, and I'm going to take expected error message and what the actual error message will come, right? And actual error message. So we're going to assert this one, right? So if you count, guys, this is one method, this is second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, right? So we have total 14 steps and we have 8 method, right? So now this is, it will not take more time. Now I'm going to run my class over here. So I'm going to make dry run is equal to true, and I will run it again to check if now everything is implemented or not, right? So if you run this one, it says to scenario 14 steps, right, in a console, and it not giving me any message like no snippet is implemented. So now I can make it dry run false, and I can run my code, right? If I run this code, it gonna execute all the steps, right? So you see it started executing the first scenario, right? Yeah, it is started executing the first scenario, and parallelly it is started executing the second scenario as well. So once it is first is done, it gonna close it, right? And once the second it's done, it gonna close it. Okay, I think I make one mistake, but that is good. Like it is expecting the another, you see the failure comparison, it says it's expecting my account but it's found login in a successful, and that's the reason it says total 2 scenario run, one is failed, one is passed, and this is skipped, right? So this information you can also okay, not over here, but you can see on a HTML report. So for that I will add HTML report as well, and then you will see format is equal to, right, pretty, format is pretty, and I'm gonna pass the HTML report HTML in this folder, right? I'm gonna take on this folder, you can give any name, but I will take this folder, sorry, HTML now. Now I'm not correcting my test case because I want to show the failure as well on a test case how it look like in a report. So I'm gonna execute this once again, and this will be our last execution. So now it's again start, right? So enter username and password, right? Then second one as well, enter username and password, because both the time it is entering the correct one. Now if I'm just gonna close this one, right, if I'm gonna close this one, you can see under the J unit, you see the report similar to the TestNG, but now it says feature of login feature we are testing. The first one scenario verify the positive test case is failed. Why? Because it was expecting, right, on these steps, you see it also show where we failed. When we verify the waste step, it is what expecting my login, but it found login over here instead of my account, it found the title as login, right? And that's the reason it's failed over here. And in the negative scenario it's passed, it did not get any error because it found the message they are looking for, right? Now if I refresh this page, if I refresh this icon, and if I go to this index, and over here I can see index.html, right? This is like similar to the TestNG, but it has some little bit more detail over here. If I open this one, you see, now this will show you, if let's suppose if you have multiple features, right, and each and every features you have multiple scenarios to test. If you create a report like this way, you can easily see where it is failing, what is the reason, right? So you can submit this report to the management as well. You can also include the screenshot, right? If you want to include a screenshot, you can also put the screenshot in the report as well. So whenever it is get failed, it's gonna capture the screenshot and show where it is. But now you see this is showing step by step. So we already know where I need to do the troubleshooting, where is the mistakes, right? Then the positive, it will show like this way, everything is green, everything pass. So for total 14 steps, only 6 to 8 method will created, and we handle both the scenario. So code is reusable, right? You can reuse your code as well for your testing purpose. So this is the like the basic structure of BDD framework, right? With the Cucumber, you can enhance this code, right? So the same functionality we have initially checked with the simple Selenium, then we go with the TestNG, then we go with the TestNG plus page object model, then we do the same thing positive and negative in a BDD framework. So I think this is pretty much good from my side, guys. This is what I want to just show you. I know it may be a little bit which you already know, but the same things we can do on a different way, and these are the advantages of these things.
Thank you, Ankit, for your crash course in UI test automation. You covered a lot of ground today, so thank you once again.
Yeah.
Ankit, as you know, we've run over, but we're really grateful
Yeah.
that you could make it today. But one thing I would like you to do, Ankit, is
Yeah.
could you share your contact details?
Sure.
Because I'm sure there's many people who'd like to keep in touch with you,
Sure. Sure.
given your breadth of knowledge with the regression tests and all the frameworks.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes there's a learning curve with these frameworks as well.
Yeah. And guys, you can also contact me on a LinkedIn. This is my profile, and you can also follow my the automation learning channel, which I started recently. And I'm also putting my all the videos how we can implement the different frameworks and everything about SQL as well. I normally put over there as well.
If you could share those links in the chat as well, that would be great.
Sure, sure. Let me just share those link in a chat in a while. Okay. I know we are just running out of the time, but I'm just gonna put these links. This is useful, and this is me. You can also contact me on our LinkedIn, guys. This is the best way because I am mostly available for 24 by hour because I do the training to the US people. I do the training for the Australian people as well. So I normally work for 16 hour a day to train the community on automation.